The Florida Panthers are your 2024 Stanley Cup champions, and McDavid wins the Conn Smythe despite losing in Game 7. I'm going to go through and break all this stuff down for you guys coming up on this episode of Hattrick HQ. But with that said, let's just jump right into it. The Cats are Stanley Cup champs, and yes, if you watched this game tonight, you would have seen that the Florida Panthers are your 2024 Stanley Cup champions. And yes, I think this is very well deserved. Obviously going up 3-0 in the series to then throw that all away to push it to one single knockout game in Game 7. What a Game 7 it was. I mean, it was end-to-end hockey. It was high-paced, and it was such a fun game to watch. One of the best games of hockey probably all season. Pretty close-knit, close scoring, a lot of chances from end-to-end. Both goalies were on their top game tonight, and what won this game for the Florida Panthers, in my opinion, was their shot blocking. Oh my god, in the final 10 minutes of that third period, when Edmonton's trying to tie the game up, I mean, the guys were throwing their bodies around, getting in front of pucks, blocking everything for Sergei Bobrovsky, and there was multiple chances where they had wide open cages, but somehow, someway, they got their foot, their torso, anything in the way to stop that puck from getting through to the net. And I think that was the biggest factor of why they won this Game 7. I mean, Edmonton, they left it all out on the line tonight. I mean, it's my heart goes out to you, Edmonton Oilers fans, just to be lifted all the way up, to come back from 3-0 to then lose in Game 7. It sucks. I wanted to see the cup back in Canada, but I'm kind of indifferent here. I did kind of want to see Florida win. They were my pick when we did our predictions way back. And I wanted to see McDavid lift the cup, but unfortunately, that was not the case. But he did get something else, but he didn't lift it because he wasn't out on the ice for it. And we're just going to jump into it here. And that is obviously the Conn Smythe. They say despite coming back from 3-0 and losing, Connor McDavid still wins playoff MVP, the Conn Smythe Trophy. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time in a while where we've seen, a player on the opposite team on the losing end win the Conn Smythe. I can't think of one in recent memory. It probably did happen. I probably just can't remember it, but it hasn't happened anytime recently. Definitely not in the past decade or more. So I think this obviously is well deserved for McDavid. I mean, if we just look at what he did this playoffs, I mean, he had 42 points in 25 games with a plus-minus of +12. I mean, that is crazy. It's the fourth most playoff points in the history in a single postseason run, and obviously he passed Gretzky's most assists in a playoff run in this in this 2024 playoffs by having 34 assists. They also say here he's the playoff MVP despite not winning the Stanley Cup, obviously, and they say he's a modern day GOAT, and I definitely have to agree with Big Head Hockey here. I think McDavid is the greatest player we've seen in the NHL in a very, very long time. And just to see him win the Conn Smythe without winning the Stanley Cup is obviously a big feat to do. I think, it's bittersweet. Like I said here, it's bittersweet for McDavid because he wants to win the Stanley Cup. It's not about individual awards for McDavid at the end of the day for any player. They don't care about individual awards. They care about hoisting the Stanley Cup at the end of the day. Every kid dreams of it. Every kid that plays hockey dreams of lifting the Stanley Cup. And that did not happen for Edmonton. Do I think that they can get back there to the point where they're competing for a Stanley Cup again? Yes, as long as they have the best player in the world on their team in McDavid, they always have a chance to get to the Stanley Cup final. But like I said, this is well deserved for McDavid. there's nobody better that, a lot of people are making arguments for Bobrovsky because he was stellar throughout this whole run for the Florida Panthers. Those last 3 games, in the finals, I think he was only at an 8.98 save percentage, but throughout the rest of the playoffs, he was playing phenomenal. It was just those last 3 games where it was kind of slip-ups for him. So, that's kind of why I think he didn't win the Conn Smythe here. I mean, it is the award for the best player in the playoffs, and, the best player in the playoffs was by far Connor McDavid. So, congrats to McDavid on that, but heart goes out to you Oilers fans. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow tonight. But, we're going to get into the brighter side of things, and that is the Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup. I'm very happy for the Florida Panthers. The first in franchise history for this club, and we've seen the rats flying on the ice after the clock ticked down. It was just electric scenes in Florida tonight for them winning their first in franchise history. Great game by the Cats as well. I mean, Sam Reinhart scoring that Game 7 winning goal for the Florida Panthers. Great goal, too, by Sam Reinhart. This guy has been just a phenomenal player for this team throughout this whole season and into this playoffs. I believe he ended here with combined regular season and playoff goals with 67. I mean, that is huge for him. Sorry, Leafs fans, 67 might sting a little bit for you, but yeah, he's been great for this team. Who would have thought Sam Reinhart would be this guy for the Florida Panthers at the beginning of the season? I don't know if anybody would have expected him to have this many goals, but phenomenal player. Big factor into why Florida is the Stanley Cup champions is Sam Reinhart. Great guy. Love that guy. It was nice to see him finally hoist that Stanley Cup. And know who else it was great to see? Kyle Okposo. I mean, that guy was the Buffalo Sabres guy for so long. Never had a chance, and what does he do? Get traded at the deadline to Florida to finally hoist the Stanley Cup. Probably Kyle Okposo's last game in the NHL. Thought that was a really feel-good story for him, and a feel-good story for everyone on that Florida team who was there last year, who lost to Vegas. They were, obviously upset that they lost, and they battled back this year to get back into that position and capitalize on that moment and win the Stanley Cup. I mean, another guy, Barkov, I mean, it's great to see him hoist the cup. I mean, I think he might be the first Finnish-born captain to hoist the Stanley Cup, which is really cool. I might be, out to lunch on that take, but right now, just thinking of it, I think that is right. I think that is true, and it was great to see him hoist the cup. Obviously, Aaron Ekblad, a guy who's been there his whole career, was drafted first overall to the Panthers. There were days where maybe it looked like we'll never win a cup in Florida, but he stuck through it. He won the cup with Florida, brought it home to Sunrise, Florida. I think that was awesome. I think everybody on this team deserved this Stanley Cup. And Evan Rodriguez, the first Evan with his name on the cup, that'll be etched in whenever they etch it in, whether it's later tonight. Probably they'll give it a couple days. They got a party with it tonight. Paul Maurice too, lifting the cup. That was awesome to see. And if we just take a look at some of the stat leaders here for this Stanley Cup winning Florida Panthers team, obviously Barkov, like I said, big player here. 22 points. Matthew Tkachuk, obviously, too. How haven't I touched on Matthew Tkachuk? I think, a lot of people either hate Matthew Tkachuk or you love Matthew Tkachuk, and I'm one of those guys. I love Matthew Tkachuk, and it was great to see him, finally win a cup for the Tkachuk family. Who's next? Is it Brady? Is it Brady Tkachuk? Maybe. I don't know if the Ottawa Senators will touch it anytime soon, but he had 22 points for his club. Carter Verhaeghe, who scored the first goal in this game. This guy has been lights out for this club all season long and into the playoffs with 10 goals. I mean, that is just phenomenal. And like I said, Anton Lundell, played well for this club as well with 16 points. Sam Reinhart, obviously having 9 goals, 6 assists. He was a big factor in this as well. Sam Bennett, former Calgary Flame, who gets the hoist the cup. And like I said, Evan Rodriguez, the first Evan with his name on the Stanley Cup. And the big name here, That's Sergei Bobrovsky. I mean, here, 903 save percentage through 23 games in this playoffs. 15 wins, 8 losses for Bob. This guy showed up. Everybody called Bob, everybody before this game was calling Bob the guy who chokes in those clutch games. So what did he do tonight? He played the best game of hockey of his life. He kept this Florida Panthers team in it. Without him in net tonight, they are not going into the locker room with the Stanley Cup. He was stellar tonight. Nobody can say Bob chokes in the finals anymore. I'm not hearing it because he played so well, had so many game-saving saves tonight for this Florida Panthers team. I mean, Evan Bouchard was just teeing him up all night long, and he was getting in front of him. He was coming across the net, robbing him, and it was just great to see Bobrovsky have such a stellar game in the clutch time in Game 7. And it was great to see him hoist the Stanley Cup after being the Jay Onrait meme all of his career. He finally gets to be have his name on the Stanley Cup, and I'm just so happy for this Florida Panthers team. Well deserved. It was a great season of hockey. The 23-24 season is over, and now guess what we're moving on to? The 24-25 season, where the offseason is about to ramp up. We have the draft, we have free agency, we have extensions, we have everything coming up here in the next little while over this summer. So if you guys don't want to miss out on any of this, on anything that's going to happen this offseason, make sure down below and hit that subscribe button, because we're going to be here keeping you updated daily on the channel. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure down below hit that like button as well. It helps push these videos out to all the hockey fans on YouTube. And why don't you, leave a comment on the video. What are your thoughts about Florida winning the Cup? Are you happy about it? Are you an Oilers fan? Or what do you think about McDavid winning the Conn Smythe as well? Love to read all your guys' takes on that down below in the comment section. But if you want to check out a video we did earlier today talking about Joseph Woll signing and Mitch Marner being traded, it'll be popping up on your screen right now. But as always, I've been your host, Casey. Keep your stick on the ice.